Hello there, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. My name is Blue and today we are going to be covering Natlan Predictions. Please remember to like, subscribe and share my videos to help me make more content like this. And without further ado, let's get on with the video. So before I get into all of the Natlan predictions, we are going to be talking about Arlecchino. I know that they're not part of the Natlan update, but they are part of 4.6, which is the next version. I'm hoping to see a lot of them in the Deinschlef quest, hopefully. I'm still really hoping that we get the Deinschlef quest next version. I have been waiting for this quest since probably September, so it's been like 6 months now. So I've been waiting 6 months for this quest, so we better get that quest. So, obviously, given at the end of every Archon quest, we always get a Deinschlef quest, except for the Liyue quest, from what I'm hearing. But we always do get a Deinschlef quest. I know that it's going to be a huge lore drop. We are going to be getting so much lore. I'm not going to get into the details, but I've seen leaks of we're going to be getting Romeria, which is the old Fontaine in a way. We're also going to be getting a gravestone of the previous Knave. So we're definitely going to be getting huge lore drops. I'm not too sure about the map that we're getting. I have seen the leaks for it, but I'm not too sure as to what exactly we will find on that island. Other than probably, obviously, as I've mentioned previously, the previous Knave's grave, because that is something we will be getting. But I'm not too sure about what else is there, because I honestly expected that. Honestly, I was thinking that because we're going to be getting Arlecchino's character, that it might be the place in Snezhnaya where the House of the Hearth is. But I'm not too sure about that anymore. I don't know if any of you have seen Arlecchino's character leaks, but the idol animations are really cool. Given that one of her idol animations is a glitch, I'm thinking there might be a chance that she is a copy of herself and her original self is at the House of the Hearth. But they already have done the clones with the Torre. Would they do that with more than one harbinger? I'm not too sure. I'm also just thinking about all of the possibilities that could be of them having the glitching in their idol animation, and I just cannot come to a conclusion as to why they would. Also, I don't know if you guys have seen her attack sequence, but it really looks like she's ice skating. And given how ice skating is so important in Russian and Slavic culture, and that's what Snezhnaya is based on, I think it's a really cool touch. Okay, moving on to the actual Natlan predictions now. So, the name of the Archon quest is Incandescent Ode of Resurrection, which probably means, given by the title, that we are going to be having some sort of resurrection happen in Natlan. So here's what I'm thinking. I've done research, I've seen other people's theories on this, and I have come to a theory myself on what I think is going to happen in the Natlan Archon quest. Take this with a grain of salt. Some of this I don't have evidence for. I just am going by all the theories I've heard and the theories I've made up myself, plus research I've done myself. So don't base this on exactly what's going to happen in Natlan. Again, this is just a theory video. So, what I'm hearing is that when we get to Natlan, the reason that there's going to be a resurrection in Natlan is because we will be resurrecting the Pyro Archon. The Pyro Archon, Murata, is not alive right now. Murata is dead. The Traveller, so whether you choose Ether, whether you choose Lamine, whoever your Traveller is, will go to Natlan, will touch the Statue of Seven to resonate with Pyro, but at the same time will get the last few memories of Murata before her death. I'm seeing a lot of people mention that Mare Javari is where Murata died during the Cataclysm, due to it being a wasteland where wind does not blow, and the place where many passed away. Regarding which harbingers we're going to be seeing in Natlan, from Mika's character stories and from Nivelette in the Fontaine Archon quest, we learn that Capitano is currently in Natlan. Therefore, it is basically confirmed that we will be encountering Capitano when we get to Natlan. So, there is a theory I've seen about Capitano which I support. I genuinely really think it's a really cool theory and that I think it's true. So, Capitano may be the bloodstained knight. There was a member of the Knights of Favonius hundreds of years ago who appeared in the descriptions of the bloodstained chivalry artifact set. Not only does the set feature a literal iron mask, chains, and similar features to Capitano's designs, but the descriptions seem to fit what Child says about him. Regarding the iron mask, Capitano literally wears an iron mask. He has chains underneath each of his eyes. The Bloodstained Knight was a student of Rustum. His obsession with justice caused him to cut down so many monsters until he himself became indistinguishable from one. The obsession ultimately leads him to the fallen kingdom of Khanria, where he discovers the ultimate injustice. The Wanderer describes Capitano as the ever-righteous captain, the brave and fearless captain, the nigh invincible captain. Don't you think that possessing absolute righteousness is actually a latent danger? And that's without taking his great personal strength into account. Showing how Capitano also thinks highly of justice. Not only this, but the Black Sword also describes the knight as forced to don an iron mask, just like Capitano. Now I'm going to be talking about the second harbinger who we may encounter in Natlan, Columbina. Columbina might be revealed to us to be a Seelie or a fallen angel. Columbina's visual design was reminiscent of a seraph, a type of angelic being. Columbina could be a Seelie as the cover on her eyes resembles what's on the bottom of a Seelie core. The wing on the middle part also resembles the wings on her head, and Seelies were also known to love singing. Columbina sings in the Winter Night Lazos trailer. According to the Records of Jueyun, Volume 4, it states, at a far-flung moment in the distant past, the ancestor of the Seelie met a traveller from afar, with whom they swore an oath of union, witnessed by the three sisters of the Lunar Palace. The three sisters of the Lunar Palace must be the three Moon Sisters. Just 30 days later, a sudden disaster struck. The Seelie and their lover fled into exile as the world collapsed around them, fleeing until the terrible calamity caught up with and seized them. Their cruel punishment was to be separated from each other for eternity and to have their memories wiped without a trace. So, according to this text, we can see that we have a Seelie getting married, and then as a punishment, they are separated from their lover for eternity, and they lose their memories. It may be something similar to the curse of Khanria, because if we continue to read, it says, the graceful but heartbroken Seelie and sisters grew more sullen and withdrawn with each passing day, to the point where their wondrous forms withered away, leaving fragments of their former selves scattered in the mountains and ruins, where they turned into tiny little life forms. If this is the case, then the Seelies were cursed, just like Hilichurls, to turn into husks of themselves, and the main player in causing the curse remains immortal, like Khanrians, which is just like the curse of Khanria. If we relate this back to Columbina, Columbina may cover her eyes so that she never falls in love with another human again. And if she is something like a lesser angel, that would explain her ranking if the top 3 harbingers rival even the gods' powers. That said, Columbina may not know she's a Seelie, as she was stripped of her memories and potentially regressed in age and became younger than a husk like her kin. This might be a stretch, but we may have to help Columbina get her memories back. We may have to guide her as Seelies guide us. There is a possibility that the people of Natlan may not be able to leave Natlan due to a curse, which would explain the lack of Natlan characters in other nations, as well as Bennett's bad luck. Bennett may be from Natlan, because it's confirmed in-game that Bennett is an orphan, discovered by the Adventurers Guild in the Marajavari Temple, which is rumored to be located near Natlan. As Bennett was taken back to Mondstadt as a baby, no one would have been able to stop him, and he himself may not know that it is a curse. But that could be the reason why the people of Natlan cannot leave Natlan, because if they leave Natlan, they might be struck with a tragedy, for all we know. Now, another character who we are going to be hopefully meeting in Natlan is Shabalanke. Shabalanke is a pyro dragon. When he introduces Nivelet in his drip marketing, he is described as the one entombed with the primal fire. His exact wording is, "Someday when they return, their true ordeal shall begin." Now, this could either mean that he is speaking in third person, and he is the pyro sovereign dragon, which would make sense given how he's described and how he knew Nivelet, or he is another dragon in Natlan awaiting the return of all the sovereigns. The next prediction that we will see in Natlan is we will see the first mortal overpowering an Archon to hype up the harbingers from Snezhnaya. This is because we are told from Nahida herself that the harbingers up to number 3 have powers equaling that of the gods. Capitano is most likely number 1 and Columbina is number 3. Now, a lot of people seem to think that Piero is number 1. Piero is actually the director of the Fatui. He is not ranked, as far as we know. He is a director, and he oversees everything that happens within the Fatui. Because there's going to be 2 gods, almost it's going to be 2 gods versus 1 Archon, and they might be able to defeat the Pyro Archon unless the Dragon Sovereign helps. Another thing I'm seeing people confuse is people say that how gods aren't on the same level as Archons. And I think that people need to realize that Archons were once gods. All the Archon title gives them is absolute authority over that land, and over an authority over the element, and authority, and the title, the status, and enosis. If you take all of those away, Archons are still just gods. And I'm not saying they're not powerful. They are really powerful. Morax, for example, Morax, Barbados, they are really powerful. They were able to win the Archon War. They are really, really powerful. But Archons are gods. Just because a god doesn't have the Archon title doesn't mean they're weak. If the gods were really weak, then why would they fight another god to try to take the throne? Why would they think that they had a chance to rather than fleeing to the Dark Sea? Yes, some did flee to the Dark Sea, but not all of them. Some of them stood their ground and fought. They wouldn't do that if they didn't think they stood a chance. Another theory I have is if the Capitano is revealed to be the Bloodstained Knight, he would have an obsession for justice. There's a theory that when the Bloodstained Knight encountered Khaenri'ah and saw the ultimate injustice happening in Khaenri'ah, he chose to be on the Fatui side. And he chose to be on the Abyssus side because of the ultimate injustice done to Khaenri'ah. My theory is we are going to see a fight between either Columbina and Capitano versus Murata, or just Capitano versus Murata. Maybe we'll be able to see Capitano actually being able to overpower Murata. I think Murata won't be able to defeat Capitano unless the Pyro Dragon Sovereign shows up. And from what we know, if Capitano is the Bloodstained Knight, he has an obsession for justice. We all know about the old world. We know how the injustice that were done to the Dragon Sovereigns by Celestia. Maybe if Capitano is the Bloodstained Knight and he knows of this and he sees this injustice, he sees a Pyro Dragon Sovereign, he will no longer want to fight them anymore because they've been through injustice themselves. The same way how the Bloodstained Knight stopped fighting in Khaenri'ah when he witnessed the injustice done to them. When he witnesses a Pyro Dragon Sovereign who went through the same sort of injustice, he will not want to fight anymore. Columbina, if we get her memories back, we'll be able to guide her. Maybe she'll be on our side again. Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe when she gets her memories back, she will have bigger priorities than trying to get the Pyronosis for the Syriza. Another thing I'm kind of thinking of at the moment, take this with a grain of salt. This is just a very, very not backed up theory. I think it would be really cool if we see something like the first mortal defeating an Archon, and somehow the Archon spirit goes to the Pyro Dragon Sovereign, where the Pyro Dragon Sovereign is able to give them a life form again. I think that would be really cool, because I think we're all convinced at this point that hopefully at the end of the Natlan Archon quest, we will see a cutscene that shows Celestia slowly waking up. With what happened in all of the other nations, especially Fontaine, the destruction of a throne, that should have woken up Celestia, but it didn't. So what if the one thing it takes to wake up Celestia is a mortal? Someone who is not a god, someone who is not answerable to Celestia, overpowering, someone who Celestia put in place, someone who Celestia chose to be in the place of authority, and someone overpowering that authority. A mortal overpowering that authority is what it takes for Celestia to wake up. There was also another theory I heard. So we all know that Murata is not the original Pyro Archon. We know that there was another Archon who won the Archon War, and Murata is the Archon who came after that, after the second Archon, who came after the original Archon. So there's another theory I came across where, what if every 1,000 years there is a almost ritual that is performed for the Pyro Archon to almost rebirth themselves into a new body, just like a phoenix, because a phoenix rebirths themselves. What if the Pyro Archon rebirths themselves every 1,000 years? Which would make sense, given that the Archon War was 2,000 years ago, so the original Pyro Archon, and then 1,000 years ago would have been Murata becoming the Pyro Archon. What if we are now reaching the 3,000-year mark? So this whole resurrection that's going to happen is the Pyro Archon almost rebirthing themselves again. Why would an Archon rebirth themselves, you ask? To avoid erosion, to stop erosion from happening. They transfer their war spirit into a new body to prevent them from eroding. Almost not just their war spirit, maybe even also their consciousness into a new body to avoid erosion, because erosion affects everyone, and it is awful. So to avoid erosion, to make sure that the god of war is always at the top of their game, they have to rebirth themselves every 1,000 years. That would be a different theory. That would mean that Murata didn't die in Marajavari and is very well still alive, but we will witness Murata's death, almost a rebirth. But I think that also makes sense, given that that's what a phoenix does, and a phoenix is a bird on fire, and we are going to the nation of Pyro. So I think that's also another interesting theory. Honestly, I just can't wait to see what we see in Natlan, because I've been waiting since the end of the Fontaine quest, and with these new lore drops we've got on Khaenri'ah in 4.5, the new books that dropped, I think they were called Per and Harry. I had another theory that what if in order to be in Khaenri'ah you have to almost half die, go into the border between life and death, which then would make sense about why Celestia can't get there. And it's honestly making sense, because if you read the Per and Harry book, it says something like Per and Harry goes through a tunnel and then there's an adult asking if they're dead. And it would also make sense why Kaya didn't age. If Kaya is from the time of Khaenri'ah, why Kaya didn't age and why he hasn't aged. If they're in that border between life and death, they won't age. Thank you for watching this far. If you stayed for the entire video, please remember to like, share, subscribe my video, and comment on videos, what kind of videos you want to see more of. Please remember to follow me on TikTok as well as YouTube and Twitch, as I will be streaming every few days. Maybe I will be more frequent at streaming. I just have been a bit off the past few days just because I haven't been too well, but I will try to stream as best as I can. Thank you for watching my video if you stayed to the end. This has been the Blue Demon.